You probably know that using Bitcoin is not private, and that matters more than you might think. In this video, I'm going to explain why it matters, what you can do about this today, even if you don't think you have anything to hide. Owning Bitcoin takes responsibility from the banks and puts it back onto you, and you need to know this, so stay tuned. All right, welcome back. So we are going to talk about how you can use Bitcoin privately today. Now, most of you guys know that Bitcoin isn't private. I'm going to explain that to you, but there is a way that you can use it privately. There's a way that I really hope everybody knows about and everybody starts to use because it's going to help the entire ecosystem. And I'm going to explain to you why that matters. All right, now before we dive into that, if you're new to the channel, on Thursdays we talk about investing, we talk about cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, what I believe are the best assets to invest in today. We talk about other high-level strategies of how you can put this together with other investing techniques and assets as well. But on Tuesdays, we talk about before you invest. These are things that you need to know to be more successful, to make more money, so that you can invest more. All right, now one other thing, I have a podcast, it's called Market Disruptors. It's on iTunes, Stitcher, wherever you listen to your podcast. I sit down with some of the best builders and investors in the blockchain space each and every week, and I ask them the questions that you should if you had the chance to sit down with them. All right, knowing the information that I get out of these guys is gonna make a huge edge in your investing space. So go to iTunes or Stitcher, download the Market Disruptors podcast. All right, now let's go ahead and get right into this. So how are we gonna use Bitcoin private? So first of all, Bitcoin's never been private. I told you that, right? So Bitcoin's not private. Now, Bitcoin is anonymous, but that's not the same as private. Now, you hear, all the big people, not big people, but, all the big naysayers, in the space, they say, well, Bitcoin's private. It's only used for drug dealers and things like that. But it's not. Bitcoin's not private. And as a matter of fact, if you wanted to use it for crimes such as drug dealing, it's probably the worst thing that you can use because Bitcoin is open. Bitcoin is open source. So you can see every single transaction that happens. Now, Bitcoin is anonymous. So anonymous is different than private. Private means nobody can see anything. Bitcoin is anonymous, meaning that anyone can see it. It's all open source, but the addresses aren't tied to my personal name. So that's why it's anonymous. So I can see all the transactions. I could see the transaction of you paying your friend, but I just see the addresses. Unless you tell me that that address is yours, I don't know how to tie it back to you, all right? However, since Bitcoin came out, we've had big advances in technology. And with technology that we have today, we have spies. They've created technology, like Chainalysis is a really big one, where they can use this technology to look at all the addresses and using artificial intelligence, they can start to put this together and they can look at the exchanges where you have KYC on there and they can tie everything together and they can find out who's who and they can put all this together. If you didn't know that, that's what's happening. If you think you're gonna use this to do illegal activities or get out of your taxes, you're probably gonna have a bad surprise. So don't do that, all right? Bitcoin is not private, it's not anonymous either. Now, why does that matter? If you have nothing to hide, right? Well, there's a lot of reasons. I'm not gonna get into the whole philosophical argument about privacy. I do have a video about that if you wanna get into that. I'm not gonna get into that today. If you wanna know more about that, I can make another video. Let me know in the comments down below if you wanna know more about privacy, the philosophy of why we need that. All right, but what we're gonna talk about is that the reason why we need privacy in Bitcoin overall is because Bitcoin users don't really need to or want to share all that information. For example, like my spending habits, I don't need everybody to know exactly what I'm buying. Some of you might be buying questionable stuff, not illegal, but let's say that you don't want your church to find out that you're making these questionable things, or you don't want the Parent-Teacher Association, the PTA, to know that you're spending money over here. Not illegal, but maybe things that might be awkward if they found out, right? We don't need the whole world to know what our spending habits are, right? Even if it's not illegal, it might just be awkward. It might be uncomfortable. You have to go see your teacher, and you don't need them to know what you were buying. It just creates. You don't need to know that. I also don't want people to know what my account balances are. Imagine if everybody knew exactly how much money you had in your bank account. That'd be kind of weird. Now, for you, maybe, it's not that big of a deal, but as you might imagine, as you start getting more and more money, that does become a problem. I know some very, very wealthy people, and unfortunately, they get very paranoid about how much money they have. They think that people are going to, try to take advantage of them, scam them, kidnap them in some places and whatnot. And so you don't want everyone to know what your account balances are. We don't want everyone to know the transaction details. So for example, in a business, I've made an agreement with this company. They're going to sell me this product for this amount. But that's between us and them. They don't want everyone to know what I paid because they may be charging different amounts to different people. So not everybody needs to know that. And then one of the other big reasons why we need privacy is a loss of fungibility. Fungibility means it's like interchangeable, right? And what happens is if always been able to see the history, they could say, well, that Bitcoin there was used for that transaction over there, so that's graded as a lesser quality one. And it's already happening. So this chain analysis software, they rate Bitcoins and they'll say this one is a more risky or a better one. And then what happens is they start to say different exchanges can only accept certain coins. All right, and now all of a sudden that they're not fungible. Bitcoins need to be always interchangeable like a dollar bill. A dollar bill is a dollar bill. Now, I don't know the exact number. I didn't look it up, but I think like 90% of dollars have cocaine on them. Something crazy like that. Dollars are used in all types of illegal activities, but a dollar is still a dollar. Once I have it, you're going to take it just like a dollar. But imagine if you can go, oop, I can see that dollar was used for some illicit activity before. I'm not going to take it, right? And so we need Bitcoin. We need our money to be fungible. We need it to be interchangeable, and we need privacy on that for those reasons. Now, getting rid of cash. All right. Now, this is kind of a new problem because basically for 5,000 years or whatever, we've been changing money, medium of exchange, no problem, right? Whether those shells or beads or feathers or whatever, or gold. I give you gold, you give it back to me. That's a private transaction. And then after gold, we had cash, and cash was a private transaction. But really only like the last 30 years or so, maybe not even that long, 20, 30 years, they've really been able to start getting rid of cash. And now everything's debit cards, credit cards, things like that. So just in the last even 20, 30 years, we're starting to see a shift to get away from cash. Now, why do the governments want to get rid of cash? Well, there's a difference of what they tell us and really what they want. Of course, it's in our best interest to give up all of our rights, to give up all of our privacy. If we don't give them the right, if we don't give them the ability to look at every single transaction we do, then terrorism is going to spread and it's going to ruin the whole world, and tax evasion is going to happen, and then drug dealing is going to go rampant, right? That's what they tell us. Again, for the last 5,000 years, they haven't been able to see this. They've only seen it for the last 20 years, but now if they don't see it, the whole world's going to end, or they'd like to say. Now, again, these could use separate topics, but I mean, terrorism, drug dealing, the governments are the ones that lead terrorism, right? They're the ones that are selling weapons, selling arms, funding opposition, funding guerrillas. They're the ones that are dropping bombs, causing terrorism in the first place, not you or I. And drug dealing, I mean, who's anybody to tell us what we can and cannot put into our bodies? Why is drugs illegal in the first place? They could end that overnight with a stroke of a pen. All the violence goes away. All the cartels are shut down. All the accidental deaths from street drugs are gone. They could use a fraction of the $1 trillion they spent on the war on drugs on education and rehab, and we could be done with this problem. But instead, half our prisons are full. And that's another thing I could go into forever. But anyway, if they don't track your data, the whole world's going to die because of drug dealing, I guess. Now, this is something that the countries are trying to move really fast. Now, like I said, it's only been the last 20 years or so that they've had this ability to have this digital cash. And we're seeing countries left and right making cash illegal. Norway, Sweden, Denmark, India, Israel. Dozens of others have made it illegal. Lots of others have outlawed big transactions. Most of Europe, you can't do a transaction more than $1,000, $2,000. India, they took away their $100 rupee. And we're just seeing it just continue to go down, 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 down. They're just really just cracking the net. And really, I gave you the reasons why they tell us terrorism and drugs and whatnot, but really it's all about control. That's really what it comes down to. And think about this. So not everybody, but a lot of people now are starting to get kind of up in arms because Facebook was found to be stealing our data. And we know that all these websites are tracking our data. And what are they doing with it? It's a loss of privacy. In Europe, they've passed this GDPR, which is this really serious privacy bill where websites can't collect data now and things like that. Well, that's just your website data. I mean, yeah, that's data, but that's website data. Imagine your banking data. Imagine this is what you spend money on. This is the most private, most sensitive. If I want to give money to this Republican or this Democrat or this libertarian person, that's up to me. If I want to be pro-life or I want to be pro-choice, if I want to buy birth control or don't buy birth control, whatever I want to buy, that's up to me. That's my price. So yeah, whatever I surf on the web is one thing, but what I spend my money on, that's the most sensitive. And they have all that. And not only do they have all that, they want to make it where you're forced to only use that. They want to know every single detail you can have. And really it goes past that. It's all about control. So if you look at the stages of any government, they grow this empire, and then the final stages of an empire, when they're falling apart, is they enact capital controls. They want to control the capital so you can't get out of it. There's no way we can opt out of the banks if we can't take our money out, right? And so so anyway, they want to take away the options for that. Now, back to the purpose of the video. So how do we make Bitcoin private? All right, so there's lots of developments going in right now that I'm super excited about to see. I think we're gonna have, well, we already have some solutions in place, which I'm gonna tell you about right now. We have lots of other solutions that are coming. I mean, like I said, they're just making a ton of advances. Now, two of the big ones is that it's actually done on the Bitcoin protocol. So I'm gonna talk about some on the Bitcoin protocol, some that are external solutions. But actually, there's developers right now, Bitcoin core developers that are working on updating the code of Bitcoin to actually have privacy built in through Schnorr signatures and Taproot. Now these get a little bit technical. I'm not going to get into that on this video because it gets deep. If you want to know more about Schnorr or Taproot, let me know. I can make another video about it, or you can just Google it or find a Medium article about it. All right, but they are going to adjust the code to have privacy built right in. Then we don't need privacy coins like Monero or Zcash or whatever, right? Imagine if we could have that built right in, that would be awesome. And so that's something that's being done right now. Another option that we have for privacy is sidechains. Now, sidechains, you've probably, if you haven't, hopefully you've heard of Lightning. Lightning was a sidechain. It allows us to transfer money super fast and easy, and that's done off of the main chain on like a sidechain. There's also Liquid as well, and we could open up a private sidechain that would allow us to transact just between us and nobody would know about that. All right, not all sidechains of Liquid and Lightning are private. Some of them do pass some data, so you need to kind of take a look at that. However, you can open up private ones and you can obscure that data, and then you could go a step further, which I'll talk about later, which is then starting to hide your internet activity to continue to do that. So using sidechains with Liquid and Lightning are one way to do that. This is one of the ones that I'm the most excited about right now because it's available today and I think everyone should be using it. And these are coin joining. All right. So basically what happens is I take my Bitcoins, I put them in a pot. You take your Bitcoins, put them in a pot. Hundreds of other people put them in a pot. And the software slowly starts to mix all the little micro bits, the UTXs, and it mixes them all up so nobody can tell what's what anymore. All right, they mix them all together. Now, again, this gets pretty complicated. I'm not going to go into it in this video. If you want to know more about how that works, let me know. We can dig into that. Otherwise, go to their websites, Google it, Medium articles. But there's two that I'm super excited about right now that I'm starting to use. One is called Wasabi. And Wasabi is a wallet, and you can just put it on your computer, and the coins stay in your wallet. You're not giving custody up to somebody. I don't believe in that. Not your keys, not your Bitcoin. Don't give up your keys to anybody. That's the best way to get scammed. But from your computer, it can mix them with other people from your own wallet. And you just put them into your wallet, you mix them and whatever. And then also there's a Samurai wallet. They have one as well called Whirlpool. And I had a demo of it. I was at the Bitcoin conference in San Francisco last week. And they have an app on your phone and you can just see your coins and then you can just choose to mix them right there. And basically either one of those make it super easy to do. And the way it should be used is really anytime you do a Bitcoin transaction, you should mix them. So I pull my coins off the exchange, they run through my mixer into my cold wallet. They go from my cold storage wallet through the mixer back to the exchange. And that way you're deleting the history every single time you move them. So nobody can ever see all the history, it's gone. As soon as I put it on the exchange, they can't see past that single transaction. And likewise, when I get it back, the transaction history is gone and now it sits in my cold storage and nobody can see that transaction going to my cold storage. All right, so that's what I'm talking about, mixing in and mixing out. Wasabi wallet, Samurai wallet. Just download those, check them out, go to their website, watch their videos on them, etc. And then the last piece is Tor. You need to have Tor. So what happens is every time I connect to the internet, they're tracking my IP. The IPs obviously track back to my name and my address and all those things. So every time I transfer money, or transfer Bitcoin, it transfers my IP address with it. And that's how these chain analysis companies are able to track this. And so what you would want to do is when you're pulling money on and off and using your coin mixing Wasabi or Samurai, you'd want to use Tor. Tor is a browser. You can download it. I highly recommend you surf behind that. And basically what that does is that hides all your internet data. It's kind of like a VPN, except for better, right? Because your IP is your weak point and you want to hide that. All right, so keep your coins clean, right? Like I said, really we want to make it where they can't ever see more than one transaction back. If everybody did this, it'd be a perfectly working system. All the coins would be clean. And like I said, then we're all working together for the good of the ecosystem. And we can really keep Bitcoin open and permissionless like it's meant to be. Like I said, if those coins are tainted, they could be non-fungible. They could say, well, this person from this country isn't allowed to put their Bitcoins on this exchange, right? Bitcoin is meant to be permissionless. It's meant to be borderless. It's meant to have financial inclusion. There's 2 billion adults in the world without access to banks. It's meant to serve them, right? The financial system that we have today is oppressive. It's permissioned and it doesn't allow people to participate, and Bitcoin is not meant to be that way. And until we can have privacy built back in, we're never going to have that utopia of this open, borderless, permissionless system that we're meant to have. So hopefully that makes sense. Now, what I would do, the best way to stack all this together, and before I tell you that, make sure you're liking this video, hit the subscribe button if you're not, and hit that bell so you get notified when I put out new videos. Give me some likes on this and drop a comment if you're going to use one of these. All right, now, how I would use all of this together. I would look at Nautilus, or I would look at Casa Node. And basically, you can buy a node. It comes in a little package, and you can have it shipped right to your house. You put it right into your browser, and it would be your own Bitcoin node and your own Lightning node, and you can run Tor on it all together. And with the Nautilus, you can have your node, your Bitcoin node, your Lightning node. You can have Samurai Wallet to mix it, and Tor all built into one application. It's a couple $100, and basically it's like a little box. You just plug it in, and it's a wallet, it's a node, it's a Tor, and everything you need to be your own sovereign bank where nobody can censor you, block you, track you, or whatever. So check those out. I don't have affiliate links, but maybe I'll get some. But anyway, I'll put links to them down below, and that's it. Hopefully you like that. Give me a thumbs up if you do. Tell me what you think. Are you going to use one of these services? And that's it. To your success. I'm out.